Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
If you're like most of our listeners, you love the idea of running the show, but you're constantly second-guessing yourself if you're ready or the person for the job. Are you missing a key skill? Are you aware of the things you need to know, like reading a financial statement or financing the operations of a business? We are here to solve that for you. Our new free Ownership Readiness Diagnostic will rank you from 1 to 4 on 5 foundational pillars of successful business ownership. It is the ultimate confidence builder that will tell you, yes, it is time to have that conversation, or no, these are the areas that you might need a little bit more time to develop. If you're interested in taking that assessment, you can find the link for that down in the description below. Welcome back to part 2 of my discussion with James Kell. If you want to watch part 1 of our interview where we talk about James taking over the family construction business, you can find that right here. Otherwise, let's get back to the episode. Dad is retired at this point. How did Dad bounce back from this? And then also just as a father, like watching your son go through this too. How's Dad doing through all this?
Dad and I have always been very close, and he did... this was his whole life. Like he'd also started as an apprentice and played in the sandpit of, like literally of the company, the yard. And so, of course it was difficult for him. Dad's really good at looking forward. He doesn't really look backwards too much. Sure, if it's going to be something that's going to help you make better decisions, fine. But this whole thing about obsessing about the past and trying to deconstruct the past, that's not Dad. And I think that's very healthy. It's almost an art form in a sense, because it's like easier said than done sometimes, especially different people think differently. His brother, my uncle, who I'm close to, is much more of a dissector of history. He's interested in the family history, for example, the family tree, and
right.
That's his passion. Whereas Dad just isn't. Dad's not sentimental in that regard at all. And I think in this sense, it's a very nice way to be. Otherwise you end up just consuming yourself with your past.
So you didn't just start the sailing company. I mean, that was the first one. That was the first company that you started. You said about 2 years later, you started that. You're now co-founder of another company. Talk to me about, venturing out back into services, back into commercial sphere.
Yeah.
With what you started.
Yeah. Well, so I came back to Australia during COVID, and the sailing business was on pause. Like there was nothing happening sailing wise.
So by necessity. COVID. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I thought, what am I going to do? I was interested in national security. So I enrolled to our National Security College for some postgraduate study, which was so interesting. It was 2 years, master's program, and it was just completely different to what I'd been doing, both in terms of construction and then the sailing and everything else. So I was in Canberra doing that, and I caught up with our safety manager back in the Kell and Rigby days, and I had appointed him, and he came from a very different background to your typical safety manager. He'd been a professional musician. He'd been a drummer and a bass guitarist for 10 years before he joined the industry. Where that's important is that he was not your typical safety guy. So, and he and I were very close. We always worked closely together and got on well. And so I asked him, because he'd stayed in the industry, he'd done very well in the safety domain in the construction industry, leading, safety in some of Australia's best construction firms. And so I asked him who had taken on this thing that we'd experimented with the Apple Store just before it all went down. And he said nobody, because we'd sort of done a pilot with these pre-printed scratch cards and giving them to workers when they were exhibiting safe behavior, as opposed to just always punishing workers when they weren't safe. So it was the inverse. We inverted that whole model of safety. And so I said to Gary, did you do it afterwards? And he said, yeah, I did it in the other firm and it was great. And I was like, okay, has anyone taken this on as its own business? And he said, no. And so I'd already founded the sailing business on my own, and it was quite lonely. And I was used to working with Dad, with Keller B, and I saw how it was on your own, and I didn't want to do that again. I wanted to start another company, but I wanted a co-founder. So I asked Gary if he'd be interested in going in, and Gary was like, yeah, let's do it. And so that was 4 years ago. And we turned the what was a physical scratch card into an app, basically. And
Okay.
so it's the administration of it is a lot easier. But basically, when workers are safe, then they could get an instant reward recognition from their boss. And
Gotcha.
so, yeah, that's scratchy.
The scratch card idea, like a lottery ticket, like a prize, like scratch to reveal what you've won kind of thing.
That's what it was originally. And we call them scratchies in Australia because we shorten everything. So the app itself is the same principle, but it's not you don't have a scratch card or anything like that, but it's that same gamification. So there's that surprise, like you say, the anticipation. Oh, my boss has just recognized that I've done this well. That's great. I'm going to win something. I don't know what it is. Typically, if we call them turbo scratchies, is the cash awards. It's $10, $20, or $50 on the spot. So it's any one of those three. And so they don't know that anticipation is a big part of the dopamine hit that we all crave. And we're all addicted to dopamine because, gamification is in every other part of our lives. And so we've really gone down that sort of path. We've found this theory called self-determination theory, which is this psychological kind of thriving. It's a very well tested theory in psychology by DC and Ryan. And so we've really used that as a platform upon which we built this app. And so last year, McDonald's Australia, 10 stores around McDonald's Sydney chose us to safety of course is important, but for them it was about customer service. It was about guiding their crew that are typically in their teenage years, and they need guidance. They need to feel competent, but they also need to do that in the spirit of keeping the vibe high in this family restaurant environment. So how do you do that? Well, you really only can do it through encouragement. And so they saw what we do is key to that. So they've chosen us. We've been working with them for the last year.
Gotcha. Okay. I think self-determination theory, popular level, Dan Pink had a book that says that we're driven by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And I think that's the idea behind that carrots and sticks don't work anymore, but this is giving them a sense of, oh, wow, you did a good job with a customer and somebody noticed it and you're getting rewarded for it then.
Yeah, that's right. So Dan Pink, I think with Drive, he calls it purpose. What he calls purpose, DC and Ryan say they call it relatedness. So they're not the same things. I acknowledge that, and I'm not about to get into that debate on which would be more powerful. I think it's fair to say that purpose is very important. Relatedness is very important. So we've gone self-determination theory, but yeah, Dan Pink's got a really valid claim there.
Okay, cool. So what does that look like, founding a company from scratch with a former coworker? Like, how does this get off the ground and test the model and say this is bigger than the job site as you guys had been using it?
It's great. It's nice being in the construction industry. It's an industry that you really have to have been kind of almost sort of born into, like in terms of people that start at their apprenticeship level really understand it, because there's so many moving parts to construction. So to have been an apprentice is to really understand the industry. It's the best way to understand the industry. So both of us are really happy to be in the construction industry. I'm happy not to be a general contractor. I'm happy to be working with general contractors. I fully respect them and I'm happy to serve them in that sense. And so I know how they think, and what we can do is to improve safety through positive means. Like there's one this is a dark statistic, but it's needs to be said. For every death on a construction site, there's 6 deaths to suicide in the industry. I call it the invisible elephant in the room. It's not the elephant in the room because people can't see it. Now, so there's 6 deaths to suicide for and everyone focuses on, personal protective equipment and delineation, and let's not have that truck, crush the person. Valid. Meanwhile, there are 6 people that are killing themselves for every one of those people. So it's difficult to know what to do. I think in the last sort of 10, 15 years, the overwhelming sort of advice has been that we guys don't talk enough. We need to talk more. If we talk more, that'll help solve the problem. So then we destigmatize mental health issues. We talk more and we're still killing ourselves. So it's like, okay, don't think talking more is actually the answer. I think almost by design, we don't talk a lot don't talk as much as females. I think that's been well researched, well documented, right from a child. And we take more risk. That's also well documented. That's a biological thing, right? So there's a few things that happen there. What we believe is that with self-determination theory being our guide, if we can improve autonomy, competence, and relatedness in the workplace, so if people can feel as though they're making their own decisions, if they can feel competent, and if they can relate to others, if we can encourage that, if we can build that in the workplace, then that is known to have this mental thriving, this psychological thriving. So we believe that this is going to help things. Is it going to be the answer? No, we're not going to, but is it going to push the needle in the right direction? We believe so. The fact that we are on everyone's devices because we're the app that awards them cash. So, we're typically on their phones, means that we have an ability to ask them a question every now and then as well. So we've got there's the Who 5, which is a psychological questionnaire set. And so we're going to incorporate that later this year into the app. So once every couple of weeks, it'll be a case of, hey, Barrett, for 20 points, do you just want to answer this question? And you go, oh, okay, I'll do it for 20 points. And it's like, basically it's a mental health question. How are you going? And you answer it sort of 0 to 5. And the framework is not ours. We've adopted the framework, but we ask the question. And if you give it a low score, then we'll have 2 follow-up questions, which again is not our framework, but it's a very well researched framework. And we can then say, okay, we can either, if it's really problematic, we can point you to the right sort of lifeline kind of service. But generally, we'll be able to know the pulse, the mental health of a site and of a company over time. And so we believe that that's also going to help. We don't believe that to be the panacea. I don't believe in, for this sort of thing, in silver bullets, but I do want to do something that might help,
Yeah. Gotcha. So scratchie effectively is making people feel like they're being noticed by their coworkers, by their supervisors. It's like, I saw you, I see you, I appreciate you. And it's just that little bit, $10, $20. That's like, oh, wow, that was a good day. Can change somebody's total outlook on that.
Exactly right. You get bonuses, managers get bonuses for strategic wins, but line workers typically don't get any micro bonuses for tactical, for sort of operational wins. And so what scratchie does is bring that same bonus approach that works, that's acknowledged so well in the senior levels, and brings it down to, it's kind of, you could call it a micro bonus, you could call it even a tip. It's anything that says, hey, you did that, I've just seen that, and I'm going to give you a reward. I don't know what it is. That's not on me. That's on the system. Deliberately, we've separated out the decision to make the award from the quantum of the award. So The reason for that is you don't want this to be controlling. If it's controlling in any way, then it goes against self-determination theory. It needs to be more acknowledgement.
I always used to joke my first employer could have kept me around another 3 years if they'd just given me a $25 a month book fund. And it's like, it's such a small thing. For me, it wasn't that I couldn't buy books for $25 a month. That wasn't it. It was that they would have noticed that I'm a reader and they would have encouraged that. And they would have been asking me like, what are you reading at the same time? So I really see the value of something like this.
It's amazing that you would, and it's so true. It's like the cup holder in the car. You must, it's been well case studied that, when I think it was Saturn or someone like that put a cup holder in a car, all of a sudden that tipped the decision in the favor of that particular vehicle, right? A cup holder. So your $25 a month book fund was the cup holder. It was, and so recognition, and this is what we're saying, is that recognition and reward that goes with that recognition is the so-called cup holder for keeping employees. And even if it doesn't keep every employee forever, it's the fact that it'll keep an employee for 10% longer, or it'll keep 10% more employees. Like whichever way you put it, it will have a positive impact in percentage terms on how long you can retain your good people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do want to ask, just because, you've learned something through the first company, like, how has this made you a better CEO now, co-founder now? And then also, we talked a little bit before recording, like, talk to me about your own succession planning in this, like goals and everything like that coming out of the multi-generational family company.
I wish I could codify what it was. I haven't been able to do that yet. Codify the lessons I learned before and what I've applied to Sailing Virgins and Scratchie. With Sailing Virgins, the Sailing Virgins is 9 years old now, so it's a small team, but it's a very, very tight team. It's a joy to work with. I had my own lessons along the way for that, and I continue to learn, of course. One of the big lessons was operationally, I need to find someone who's passionate about that part of the business. And so I have a German woman who runs Sailing Virgins now day to day, and she's brilliant. And we talk every other day, and she's on top of things. And, so it was important that I didn't do that part of the business because I don't think I'm particularly good at it. And so I'm clearer on what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at, what I'm bad at with these businesses now. And I make sure I find someone who can deal with my weaknesses. So whereas with when I was running the construction company, it was less clear to me what I was good at, what I was bad at.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Just fill me in on, you did mention like succession planning or, building that into the next company. Do you have any insight on that, lessons learned, or anything you want to add for that before we wrap this up?
Succession planning. So with Sailing Virgins, I was considering selling it last year, but it's too much. It's too enjoyable to be a part of. So I just came back from St. Martin from training some new instructors, and it's just so much fun. It's a nice business. So there's profit share with the team, with the general manager. And so, of course, I want them to be invested in the business. I'll probably look at giving them some equity at some point in the business. So I'm not holding on to that too religiously. I think that pays back dividends in its own way. With Scratchie, it's very early days. So we've just launched Release 3 now. We're just about to look at launching in the US. And so it's a very exciting business. It's good to be doing something that feels right, as well as with the unit economics of software, which it's a SaaS, so it's essentially software. The unit economics is unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, I come from 2%, 3% net margins being expected. It's more like 95% margins in SaaS businesses. Now, you need to get to a certain level of subscribers that can So that whole product market fit that they talk about is all important. But as soon as you get to that point, it's a really decent business. So unlike anything I've ever seen in sailing or construction or anything like that, I think Mark Andreessen was said to, he's quoted as saying the software will eat the world. And I can understand why that's the case. I mean, if you've got software that solves a problem, then you're in a good place.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. I mean, we're coming to the end of the show here. James, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we wrap it up and go to the lightning round?
I'll just reiterate one thing then, is to suggest to fathers in a family company, typically it's a patriarch, and how to deal with their offspring. I would say have your priority as you probably do prioritize your family. Make sure that involves how you deal with situations in the business vis-a-vis your son or daughter. And do not blame them for stuff-ups, only look forward. And if they blame you for stuff-ups, that's actually how you've taught them. So don't have a problem with that. You're just going to have to deal with that. And that would be, because regardless of whether the firm does well or not, whether it succeeds or fails, I think we can all agree that to have a good relationship with your parents in life is a real blessing.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
all
you
I'd
for
say.
sharing that. Yeah, that's a good lesson. All right. With that, we can jump into the lightning round if you're ready to go.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Coffee or tea, and how do you like it prepared?
Coffee, long black.
Okay.
I'm a sailor. You tend to like the simplest ways of doing things.
Gotcha. All right. Pie or cake, and do you have a favorite kind?
Cake, anything my mother makes. Yeah. Anything sweet and full fat, full sugar, all the things. Yeah.
Okay. Does she have a favorite kind of cake that she makes?
We have this thing called pavlova. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's the best thing ever. I don't know if it's a pie or a cake. It's its own genre. But yeah, it's an ongoing. It could cause a war between Australia and New Zealand. Who actually came up with the pavlova? We claim it. The Kiwis, I've kind of got family, you could say, in New Zealand, so I consider myself a bit Kiwi. And but yeah, no, it's a serious issue. Probably the most serious issue between the two countries. But pavlova, pavlova is a great cake. It's like a meringue with cream and berries. It's amazing.
Okay, awesome. I've got some reading to do tonight after we conclude. Then,
yeah.
Do you have a favorite holiday, and why?
Yeah, so I don't even know if I should say this because it's such a beautiful place, but I've got there's an island just off Australia called Lord Howe Island, and it's a bit of a healing island, and it's a remarkable place. There's a couple of beaches and a couple of mountains, and there's 350 people who live there, and so time spent there is very healing. It's very, very good. It's not cheap to get to, and it's not cheap to stay at, but it's just an amazing place.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Nobody go there. Leave it for
Nobody
James.
go there. That's right. Yeah.
Nice. Do you consider yourself a morning person or a night person? And do you have a favorite routine that you enjoy?
You're definitely morning person. And this morning's an illustration of my mornings. I got up early, went to the beach, did a workout, did a short meditation, had a cup of coffee, and got into this. So, yeah, I love the morning routine. It's a big part, and I live by the beach in Sydney, so very fortunate in that regard.
Start with an open water swim.
Yeah, that's right. But even in Canberra, which is inland, so you find what you can do in the morning routine: walk up a mountain or something like that. So,
Nice.
what we call mountains in Australia, you guys call hills because we don't really have mountains to speak of. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. What's a common belief among entrepreneurs that you would want to challenge?
This one is a bit more difficult. It's not just among entrepreneurs. I think it would be generally the one of accountability. I think that life becomes simpler and actually more refreshing when you take full responsibility for it. And like I say, not just for entrepreneurs. In fact, entrepreneurship kind of in many ways forces this lesson. But I would say to the more people that figure it out and the quicker people learn that, the better life becomes for everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, this whole conversation's been a testament to that. So it's a lesson that you've learned well, and I thank you for sharing it with the audience today. What is one thing that you would want your successor to remember you for?
I would like to have my successor unpack the business and say, this is better than I thought it was. So as the business reveals itself, because a lot of these things you learn over the weeks, months, and years following taking over, to say, wow, this is better than I thought. So that would be my aim.
Gotcha. Awesome. I'm getting way more than I paid for in this. Yeah. So much more value than I thought was there in the first place.
And it's not just financial. Like if you look at the sailing business, I'm just loving this business. I'm loving being a part of it, loving what we do, loving the instructors and the team. Like I'd want whoever purchases the business or takes it over to have that same sense of going, wow, this is great. This is a joy.
Yeah. Awesome. Where are you finding creativity right now, James?
Oh, in the business. So in Scratchie and in Sailing Virgins, this is why I love doing these things, is that it's fully testing, fully extending me in terms of dealing with teams. With Scratchie, it's dealing with the dev teams. They're principally based in Poland. How do we deal with marketing? What's the bleeding edge of marketing? How do we get the word out? Yeah, I'm fully extended with these businesses and loving it.
Nice. Final question for you. What do you have coming up that's got you really excited in the next year or so?
Yeah. So launching Scratchie in the US is going to be, the US is a massive market. Like we've got 25 million people in Australia. You guys have 330 million people. So it'll be really exciting to be involved in that. And also the American entrepreneurialism shouldn't be underestimated or understated, really. Like the fact that you guys celebrate entrepreneurs, it's in your cultural DNA. And you also celebrate bounce back stories. Like if someone, like let's say a business failure, in Australia, that's kind of like a red card or maybe a yellow card. In America, it's like, it's almost a badge of honor. It's like,
cut that one out of the way, on to the next one.
I screwed up. I learned a lot. Americans tend to go, all right, cool. It's an amazing part of your culture. And so I'm looking forward to being involved in that in your country.
Awesome. What's marketing going to look like as you guys get here? I know we're past the interview, but are you guys going primarily towards businesses? Is this something for small teams, like a manager with 3 people under them could implement something like this? What's that look like?
Yeah, so we're a rewards platform, but we're a layer that goes on to apps like safety platforms and things like that. There's a safety platform coming out of Australia called Safety Culture. They've had a very good go-to-market strategy, which involves a freemium. So you can download their app for free and use it, and then you can subscribe. So the way that Scratchie will be is emulating that. So people can download our app. They'll be able to use it with a small team of like 10 people. And then when they want to go pro, like to get more features and that sort of stuff, or more people or anything, then they pay $5 per user per month. So, we're saying that the return on that it makes that $5 a trivial amount, but, and that's how it will look. So social media will be out there, word of mouth, case studies, that sort of thing. Typically, word of mouth and case studies is what we've used to date to expand. People like us and that they pass on, the story. So that's been good for us to date.
Awesome. When can we look for that in the States?
Early next year. I was going to say late this year, but I'll say
this will be coming out January, February. So
yeah,
just around the corner.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that, James, and I could definitely see a need for it. I run a small team of 14 total, and just finding ways to appreciate them without just making it cheesy or without making it, the stereotypical pizza party kind of thing.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing this. So I want to thank you just for your time and sharing your story with us here on The Art of Succession. Where can people find out more information about you?
Go to scratchie.com or sailingvirgins.com. That's the two businesses, or they can just email me, james@scratchie.com. So,
very good. Thank you so much for your time, James. I appreciate your sharing your story.
Thank you, Barrett. Have a good day.
I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion with James Kell as much as I have. Here on the Art of Succession podcast, we have interviews with business owners with their own succession stories, just like James. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find the link for that down in the description below. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd ask that you please share it with someone else, and you'll probably enjoy this episode next. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.